So today I'm going to be taking a look at this Adam Black O2T travel guitar in vintage sunburst. The T stands for travel because, as you can see, obviously it's a much smaller body, which is also ideal for those who want something a little bit more manageable in terms of playing size. Now, if you compare the size of this to something like a sort of standard dreadnought size like this, it hopefully gives you a bit of an idea in terms of size difference between this and that of a standard sort of dreadnought guitar. So I'd like to thank Rossetti for sending me this guitar for a few days to try out. I've been on the lookout for something that I can recommend to my students who want something a little bit more manageable in terms of size, but also something that plays really well and sounds good. And I think this guitar really fits the bill. In terms of price, they come in at somewhere around between 140 to 150 of your English pounds. I think the suggested retail price is about 152, I think. And you also get a nice padded gig bag with that. It's a good quality bag. It's not just one of those sort of dust covers. So I think this guitar has a lot to offer at that price point. So other than the smaller body, in terms of spec, one of the other things to note is the obvious difference in scale length, right? And the scale length is the distance between the saddle and the nut here, right? Now, the scale length of this guitar is 23.5 inches, which actually, when you compare it with the sort of roughly the standard scale length of like a dreadnought, they're around 25.5. So that's actually quite a difference. So you're gonna probably notice that if you're used to playing fuller size guitars. I must admit, it didn't really take me that much to adapt to, but it's just worth being aware of. In terms of wood, we've got laminated sapelli on the front, back and sides. It's quite a nice, as you can see, sort of attractive wood. It feels like they're going for a sort of mahogany finish here, which is nice, been nicely done. The neck actually is slightly different. I'm going to talk about the curvature on the neck in a minute, but the neck is actually, they say it's a mahogany neck there. It's a nice bit of wood, and the dovetail joint onto the body. And that really is about it in terms of spec for the guitar. Obviously, it's a pretty straightforward instrument, which I really like. There aren't any kind of particular frills because you can just focus on making the guitar sound good and play well. The binding, actually, I wanted to mention, the binding, sometimes you get that sort of sharp edge sometimes on guitars like this, but it feels like they've sort of smoothed that off. So that's really nice, makes it that bit more comfortable. But yeah, in terms of spec, that is about it. So in terms of the playability, probably the first thing to mention is the neck. Now, I tried to sort of demonstrate, but it's got a kind of real curvature to it. Almost feels like you've got like a V shape round like that. It's not quite a V shape, but that's the kind of feel. Now, all in all, really, for me, that just makes it very comfortable to play. The neck is quite slim anyway. The action's really quite nice and low. It's distance between the strings and the frets, so it's an easy guitar to play. In terms of the tuning, I've been playing it on and off for a fair few days now. I've not noticed any problems with the tuning. It seems very much in tune, and just the intonation seems, as you move up the neck, it seems in tune with itself. So yeah, just overall, obviously this is a guitar not necessarily aimed at complete beginners, but it's going to be people who are sort of relatively new to guitar. But the key thing is, it plays really well. It's very easy to play. So I think that's really key for a guitar like this at this price point. Okay, so let's hear what it sounds like. I'm just going to go through it and demonstrate a few different sounds. So as you may be able to tell, I really like this guitar. I think at this sort of price point, it's pretty hard to argue with. For me, it sort of achieves, what it set out to achieve, which was to provide, a guitar which is suitable for people who want a smaller body, probably for people, not complete beginners, but people who are sort of moving on to maybe their second guitar or first sort of proper instrument. It's very easy to play, it sounds good for what it is. And I think it's just important to remember, if you want like really low end bass response, you want that big boomy sound, you're not necessarily going to get that with something like this. But yeah, if you want something sort of manageable in terms of size, sounds good, plays good, I think this guitar is worth looking at. If you've got any questions about the guitar itself or the video, just let me know. Otherwise, I hope to see you on the next one.